So let me ask you a question, my friends. How much money do we need to live? How much stuff do we need? You know, every once in a while I find myself reflecting on how much more prosperous we are today than my parents were when they were back in the day when I was born. Growing up, when I was young, my family and I lived in a little 2-bedroom, single-wide trailer. And I can remember playing out front, and I could look down the road, and I saw the neighbors, and they had a little ranch house. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And I thought that right there was the dream house. Back in my teens, I remember reading an article. This is probably People magazine is what it was, but it was an article about Johnny Carson. And he bought his parents a new house. You all remember that? You know? Johnny Carson had become unimaginably rich as the host of The Tonight Show. And you know, when I remember when I read that story, the picture that came to my mind was a little 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch-style house as the perfect house that you would buy your parents. You know, I couldn't really imagine anybody needing anything better than that. You know, and as all children do, I daydreamed. What would I do if I had lots and lots of money? I can remember dreaming of buying Mom and Dad a house. As a kid, you all probably dreamed something like that, didn't you? With a big yard that us kids could go playing in a fort in the back, and swing sets and slides and swimming pool. Got to have that swimming pool as a kid. But you know, back in 1976, Mom and Dad bought a dilapidated farmhouse. And spent years fixing it up before we moved to Virginia. This was when we lived in Maryland. So we had our big house, and we had lots of room to play. And we had cows, and pigs, and chickens, and ducks. We had a big garden. You know how things have changed, haven't they? Back in the mid-70s, when I was in my formative years, I guess you would say, the average new house was 1,700 square feet. And when I was researching this, the latest figures I could find were from 2016. But the average new house now is 2,700 square feet. That's a lot of space, you know? A decade or two ago, people were building McMansions. You remember that term, McMansions? Huge homes designed to say, hey, look at me, I got some money. And today's trend is called McModern, where they try to do a big house up in all modern garb with the latest electronics and gadgets and, I guess, robotic tools and vacuum cleaners and all that good kind of stuff. One of my neighbors sold his house here recently. I thought it was a nice house, by my standards at least. And he moved in to a 4,000 square foot house. His children were grown, so it's just him and his wife. And I asked him why he needed so much space. And he said that for his entire adult life, all he did was collect. And he needed a place to store all of this stuff. He needed 4,000 square feet just to put his stuff underneath the roof. And you know, here lately, I mean, I'm guilty of this myself. You know, I'm the biggest sinner there is. Back in the 70s, cars were compactor, is that a good word? The average large car was 3,000 pounds. Now, I'm driving a car that's almost 5,000 pounds. You know, cars are getting bigger. Everything's getting bigger. Fast food restaurants encourage us to what? Supersize it. I do like my large drinks, okay? Then there was this movie that came out called Super Size Me. And it highlighted the effects of supersized food. And you know, while fast food restaurants here recently have dropped the word supersize, they still want you to eat all their calories. So they still try to get you to upsize. And you know, the same is true for most traditional restaurants too. You know, we just went to Cracker Barrel last week or so, did we, Dawn? They set out enough food in front of us for each person to eat for me, just 2 or 3 people could have eaten what they gave me. Sometimes I go to restaurants and I ask for a to-go box before we even get our food because I know it's going to be too much. And if I try to eat it all, I feel sick for hours. I feel sick and uncomfortable, and don't see me go through that. Oh my goodness, it's ugly. And you know, a few years ago, cigarettes were the biggest killer, weren't they? But today, what's the biggest culprit? It's sugar and food. Food. You know, there's sugar in everything, isn't there? Sugar in soda, sugar in ketchup, sugar in your mocha lattes. Don't forget them mocha lattes. There's an epidemic of obesity in our world today, and an epidemic of diabetes. We live in a supersized world. Everything is bigger. But are they better? That's the question. Are we better off because of it? We are, without a doubt, richer than ever in this world. We are among the richest people who have ever lived, and we use the phrase better off to mean financial prosperity. And we are indeed, at least in my belief, better off financially than we have ever been before. But I would suggest to you that being truly better off involves more than money. True prosperity has other dimensions that we dare not ignore. True prosperity includes good health. An unhealthy person isn't truly prosperous, is he? Regardless of how much money he or she might have, none of us would trade places with a rich person who was truly sick, would we? True prosperity also has a spiritual dimension. I have known wealthy people whose lives revolved around making and spending money. I have relatives who fit that description. To visit with them is to hear one story after another of money that they have made and the things that they have bought. They think that nobody likes them because they're rich. And the truth is nobody likes them because they're poor. You know? They are rich in money, but poor in everything else. In our gospel lesson today, a man came to Jesus. He wasn't rich, but he had money on his mind. He spoke to Jesus saying, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." The father had left his estate to the two brothers jointly, and this man didn't want to be tied to his brother. He wanted to be free. So he said, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." I read that as not a question, it was more of a command. He was telling Jesus to do his bidding for him. He was saying, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." You know, before this man came onto the scene, Jesus had been engaged in serious teaching. He had been warning people about hypocrisy. He had been telling them that they would face opposition. But he assured them that the Holy Spirit would help them when they were arrested. But this man interrupted Jesus' teaching with this request. He said, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." And Jesus just stopped. He just stopped what he was doing to tell this man what he needed to hear. Not what he wanted to hear, but what he needed to hear. Jesus said, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." Then Jesus told him a parable. A rich man had a great harvest. The harvest was so great that the man had to tear down his small barns just so he could build big barns. He didn't thank God for his prosperity. He didn't give his workers a bonus. He didn't even offer to feed the poor. All he thought of was himself. He said, "Oh, what should I do? What should I do? I have no place to store my crops. This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And that's where I'll store all my surplus grain. And then I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry." But what did God say? God said, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" And Jesus concluded that. He said, "This is how it will be for whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God." You know, please note that Jesus did not say that it's bad to have money. Bill and Melinda Gates, they use their money, to fund medical research that saves lives in third world countries. God bless them. Andrew Carnegie, he used his wealth to start the public library movement in this country. God bless him. Alfred Nobel used his money to endow the Nobel Prizes, to encourage excellence and to promote peace. God bless him as well. The modern American way is to spend, spend, spend to the very limits of your income. And then what do? We spend more, don't we? A few hundred years ago, Methodist founder and Anglican preacher John Wesley, he showed us another way. Wesley lived in economically uncertain times. Yet, from his humble beginnings, he became so well known that his income eventually reached about 1,400 pounds per year. And today, this would be the equivalent of about $250,000 a year. So what did he do with all that wealth? Did he tithe it? No. He went way beyond tithing. He disciplined himself to live on just 30 pounds a year of that 1,400 pounds. He gave away 98% of his money each year and lived on just the 2%. Wesley once preached a sermon on Luke 16:9, and he spelled out his philosophy. He said that money is a tool that can be used for great good or great ill. It is an excellent gift of God, he claimed, answering the noblest ends. In the hands of his children, it is food for the hungry, drink for the thirsty, raiment for the naked. It gives to the traveler and the stranger where to lay his head. But we may supply the place of a husband to the widow, and of a father to the fatherless. We may be a defense to the oppressed, a means of health to the sick, of ease to them that are in pain. It may be as eyes to the blind, as feet to the lame, a lifter up from the gates of death. It is therefore of the highest concern that all who fear God know how to employ this valuable talent, that they be instructed how it may answer those glorious ends and in the highest degree. And he went on to spell out 3 simple rules which can guide us. He said, gain all you can, save all you can, and give all you can. Wesley lived out these principles. On another occasion, he remarked, if I leave behind me 10 pounds, you and all mankind can bear witness against me that I have lived and died a thief and a robber. And to sum it up, John Wesley put it this way. We all probably know this. We've seen it, I'm sure. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. And we can do that, whether we're rich or poor. And if we do that, if we do all the good we can and help all the people we can, our lives will be blessed, whether or not we're rich. But if we are fixated on accumulating wealth or things, if our primary concern is supersizing our houses or our cars or our food, then we need to hear Jesus' warning this morning. He told the rich man that he would die that very night, and he warned, this is how it will be for whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. So how do we get rich toward God? Jesus said that 2 things sum it up. The first is to love God, and the second is to love our neighbor as ourselves. If we truly love God and neighbor, then the things that we will supersize will be our generosity. And if we supersize our generosity, we will be rich toward God and a whole lot happier. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.